Simon and Lucy, hello.
Hello.
Hey,
It is William calling from Wee Wee Blogs. How are both of you?
tired post Eurovision, and I was only there for 3 days.
I was there for 11 days and why am I back at work? Why? Okay, because they pay me money to be there. Yeah, right, right. But otherwise, my brain needs to shift away from Eurovision mode back into normal life mode. It will eventually be there, I guess.
Absolutely. Get yourself an espresso macchiato. But before you do that, let's discuss the results of semi-final one. Are you ready?
Let's
Let's
do
do
this.
this.
We somehow managed to be in unison via Zoom. All right, just to quickly review, these were the top 10. First place was Ukraine, followed by Albania, the Netherlands, Sweden, Estonia, Iceland, Poland, Norway, Portugal, and rounding out the top 10, San Marino. And then the eliminated countries were Cyprus, Croatia, Slovenia, Belgium, and Azerbaijan. Now that we have the results, let's go around and talk about what surprised us. Lucy, let's start with you.
First and foremost, I mean, let's get the obvious one out of the way. Belgium non-qualifying, but not only not qualifying, coming 14th in the semi-final. What? This was one that we were really, when we all saw the staging, I think pretty much all Euro fans were like, oh, this is really elevated. And I just think it was in the arena, like it went off so hard. Everybody really seemed to love it. And when they were doing the voting sequence in the arena, everybody was chanting, Belgium, Belgium. I was to the point that I couldn't speak for 3 hours when I woke up on Wednesday morning. It was like everybody wanted Belgium through, and then he didn't qualify. And I think a lot of people were like, that's 11th. But no, he was second from last. And that's gotta be shock of the year, really. Like he was fantastic and he deserved so much better.
Yeah, I was surprised with this as well. I do wonder, does rave translate to a mass audience? Now, obviously, among Euro fans, we loved it. I loved this. I would have put this through. This would have been near the top for me. But I just asked to ask, do you think perhaps rave is not as popular as we feel that it is?
Yeah, I think sometimes more intense songs can put people off. Like the examples that come to mind was Luke Black only just qualifying. I know it's a different genre, but that
Mhm.
intensity of music. So Sam and Mrs. Barber qualified in 10th place, only just made it over Latvia, which is still crime of the century for me. But another example is Fulen in 2022. Again, different genre, but same like intensity at you in the song. And Fulen was very much the bottom half of the scoreboard. And I think it's in that little genre of it was just too much for your casual voter.
And even We Will Rave didn't do particularly well in the grand final with Colleen. Euro fans, we love her, but in the mass of Europe was like, this song is too much. Simon.
I have some of the same sentiments. One thing that springs to mind when I look at the result, a good vocal can elevate a bad song, bad in terms of not having chances to qualify, but bad vocals can really kill a song that is hyped to go through. I mean, we all heard, I mean, the problem for us was, William, you and I saw that first semifinal in the arena where those vocal problems will not be as imminent or prominent as through a TV screen. But Theo Evan and Red Sebastian, from what I've seen and heard, had some vocal issues with songs that are very, very difficult or more difficult to sing. While my favorite Icelandic boys from Vibe, they came sixth with, let's say, an objectively more digestible song. And although the vocals were not bad, they were not, up there with the, let's say, Justyna Steczkowska or the well, she's actually the biggest vocalist of that semifinal. Anyway, but that just shows that if you have a difficult song for the casual viewer, you need to be on point because if you aren't, you're out. Although, as we can see, San Marino 10th with 46 points, Cyprus 11th with 44 points. So it was really down to Italy voting in that semifinal and carrying San Marino through on that last spot.
Yeah, and Switzerland was also voting, and I had an Italian cab driver when I went to the arena, so this was on my mind. I do think that helped push San Marino through. If Greece had been voting in this semifinal, then we would have seen Cyprus going through. I want to pick up on your point about vocals. In the arena, I was aware of Theo Evans' vocal being off. It sounded very strained because it's very high pitched and he was physically, dangling. So obviously it was going to be quite tough. And it just felt like he wasn't just running, to say shh, he was chasing his own voice. I just felt like the rhythm as well. There's something about the song, everything just felt slightly off. It could have been the echo in the arena, but I just felt like he was running after something and chasing something that wasn't quite there. Whereas in the arena, Red Sebastian, I thought sounded really good. I haven't rewatched the TV performance, but in the arena, I didn't notice the vocal issues as much. But that would potentially explain this result because as a viewer, I was blown away by that staging. I just thought it was so conceptual. And to your point, though, maybe conceptual turns people off. Maybe they need the vibe, throwing an octopus at the screen to make it digestible. On the vibe point, they had incredible energy. I understand why they opened the show. It was actually the perfect opener because they had more energy than so many acts that came after them. I've never been a huge fan of the song, but watching it, watching their staging, watching the coloring, I was like, yeah, this deserves to be in the final. And it was great to have in the final. I think my first takeaway is that I'm so happy for Albania. Second place. They almost only 15 points behind Ukraine. What an incredible result. This shows that no matter what country you're from, if you have a great song with great performers, you can climb the scoreboard. We often see Albania struggle to get through, and this year they sailed through, they flew through. It's just an incredible result. And you can't say, oh, it's only diaspora. No, because we can use the Euro fandom as a case study. People from all over the place were hyping the song. People all over the place were loving the song. I just think that's a really, really good result. Other point, as well, actually, let's move on to Lucy. We'll come to Estonia later. Lucy.
Yeah, with Albania, I mean, I threw a party here on a Saturday with a lot of casual viewers here. Like it was literally just me, my husband, and my friend Ebbs were the only Eurovision fans here. Everybody else, there's quite a few, were casuals, and they all loved Albania, like loved Albania. And I think it was just incredible. It's so good to see it do well. William, when we saw the semi-final allocation, the first thing you and I said is Albania is a lock. Gosh, they came second, and I'm so thrilled for them. Like, and I mean, to be only what is it, they're 15 points behind Ukraine as well, which is such a powerhouse of Eurovision. Excellent news. They deserved every point they got, and I'm thrilled for them. They did such a good live performance. The staging was perfect. I really wish they could have beaten the record for fifth, but we'll get to that another day. But it's just I'm so thrilled for them they came second.
Yeah, the same sentiment actually goes for me, and they won the rest of the world vote in that semifinal. Let's not forget that. I mean, we of course we know that a lot of diaspora voters will vote for the rest of the world, but I mean, Albania is also represented in Portugal, in Switzerland, in Italy. So I get that, but the rest of the world, there are not that many Albanians around the world that, let's say, justifies that result alone. So I think it echoes that you go with something that sounds natural for your country. I mean, I'm old enough to remember back in the day when countries actually sounded, the songs sounded from the countries that they were from and weren't just, let's say, English speaking fabricated songs that made it through. And by the way, 9 out of 10 songs qualifying from this semifinal are in own languages. Thank you very much. So broadcasters out there, don't be afraid to show your national language. And I'm talking to DR, but we'll get to that when we get to semifinal two. And SVT for that matter. But, get real, get your language and get your culture into Eurovision. You will be rewarded.
And it's a really interesting point. If we look at the non-qualifiers, Theo Evan, Marko Bosnjak, Clemen, Red Sebastian, and Mama Gama, they were all singing in English, every single one of them, and they were what? Out. And I think, not not to criticize those songs in particular, but I think the advantage of singing in your own language is you connect with the lyrics more, and surely that helps you with the performance. Like if Albania had translated that into English, while Beatrice can speak English, it just wouldn't have had the same fire. It wouldn't have had that Zjerm. And also, these sounds are unique for us to hear, and it makes it more mysterious, more interesting. Whereas I felt like with Poison Cake, the English, it makes it feel plastic in a way. I think if English isn't your native language, the song can often come off as extra plastic, just because it loses that je ne sais quoi, that X factor. And my least favorite song of the qualifiers, well, actually, no, that's not true. Kyle Alessandro's Lighter was among my less favorite qualifiers, and that was sung in English. Just throwing that out there. All right, we move on to Estonia. I want to talk about Tommy Cash, who placed third with the televote in the final. Is that correct?
Yeah. Second.
And then third,
Second in the
second with the
final.
televote. Second with the televote in the final, and then third overall because of the jury dragging him a little. And yet he was one, two, three, four, fifth here. It's very interesting. And I guess this might go to the fact that Euro fans watch the semifinals, whereas the grand final is the whole universe, right? And within Eurofan circles, there was, from the time of Esti Lau up until now, this negativity, this social media, oh, I don't like Tommy Cash, all these like rumors about his personality. We all met him at the House of Helvetia, and he was among my favorite acts. So warm, so kind to every single person. Not at all like the Eurofan Twitter descriptions of him. And it took me a minute, and it just reminded me how sensitive we all are to like what's churning in the background. Even if you try to avoid social media, I post and ghost. I'm not sitting there, sending emails to everybody. I post and ghost. But even I was impacted by that. So to cut a long story short, I think that his success later in the grand final is that mass audience. Some of us were biased because of the Eurofan circles. People at work yesterday, they were talking about Estonia. These are not Eurovision fans. These are everyday kind of, actually, you call them anti-Eurovision fans in a way. They're not interested, but they remembered Estonia. So clearly, this tapped into a bigger idea. The music was palatable. He dressed like Donald Trump. He hasn't confirmed this, but come on, blue suit, the reddish orange tie,
Too
an
long.
impresario. Yeah, there you go. How do you explain the success?
I'm obviously watching from a UK perspective. In the UK, we tend to go for kind of more novelty songs sometimes. And actually, the audience that we're here, we're watching together, so many of them were like, there's so many novelty songs this year. I love it. And I was like, eye rolling, but also at the same time, like, no, fair enough, like, cool. And Tommy Cash was the one they really latched onto. Obviously, they love Sweden as well. But with Tommy Cash, they really liked it because it's so memorable. And all over my social media now, all the casuals are putting that sound on me amore. When I'm scrolling through Instagram, every other flipping post has got Espresso Macchiato on it. So I know it's certainly connected here, and obviously not just here, like all over Europe, they really liked it. And like, I'm so glad you mentioned how nice he was at House of Helvetia, because oh my God, he was so lovely. He made the point to like kind of backstage to us, he made the point to thank us and like almost do like a mini speech about how much it meant to him that he was able to come and meet some of the fans. And that's in private. That's not just a photo op. That's a private thing. Really thanking, grateful for the fans being there and grateful for the turnout and grateful kind of that the event was happening. And he was so kind and genuine and really sociable, chatting with everybody, wanted to make sure he talked to everybody. He was great. So actually, like, he did surprise me, because I was like you say, we're in this bubble, you hear certain things, and when I met him, I was like, oh, like, he is so nice. He's one of the nicest acts this year. Not that I was expecting him to be horrible, but I was just like, wow, this man, like the aura around him, he was so sweet, like, genuinely. So yeah, I was thrilled for him to do well.
This wasn't among my favorites from the beginning. I thought the song was too novelty. Sometimes you can have clever novelty. I felt from the beginning that this was kind of too novelty. But again, I mean, I saw Kai's rise from last in the odds in Belfast to winning. So I've been on that journey, and it's actually kind of the same journey I was with on Tommy Cash, because when I saw that staging the first time, I was like, oh, this is good, because sometimes the staging just have these subtle hints. You are sitting there, and I did the same as I did when I saw Kai staging the first time in the semifinal at Melfest. I was like, this is clever. It underlines the message. It's subtle. It's not too much in your face. And there are some, let's say, cackling moments along the way where you're like, oh, this is funny. I see what you're doing there. And he composed that staging with that song so well. And of course, having that hook. I mean, mi amore, espresso macchiato, macchiato, macchiato. Everyone. And I'll tell you how that sounded in Arena Plus because I was there on the grand final. I can tell you there were a lot of espresso macchiatos there, not only been drinking but also been singing. So this is for me actually one of the cleverest stagings to fit with a song that we've seen this year, and that's why it ended up doing so well in the final.
I want to read this comment. This is on the Weblog's website. Purple Mask says, Espresso Macchiato is the best ESC parody song so far, in my opinion. Artistically, it was worth points from juries anyway, again, in my opinion. I think another problem us Eurofans had is we had seen the SD Lau staging, and the SD Lau staging was indeed underwhelming. It was not, it felt empty at times. However, the staging here was so amped up. The bouncing plane is one of my favorite images from the entire competition. I think including the fake Tommy obsessive stand fan was brilliant. Because for a split second, the first time we saw it, we were like, what? What's going on? And then, of course, she starts dancing in unison. This was fantastic. This was fantastic. We continue. Interestingly, in this semifinal, Ukraine won with Bird of Prey, surprising a lot of people. Now, I have to be honest, of all of Ukraine's entries in terms of the music, this is among my least favorite. This song I never fully identified with. I appreciate the message and the sentiments behind it, longing for home, sending emotions to loved ones separated by war. That's all very powerful. And so is the personal story, the fact that the backing vocalist, her house was razed, by Russian bombs, drones during the competition. It's all upsetting, and it just, shout out to them for their perseverance, their strength, etc. All of that remains. But the song itself, if I divorce myself from all of that, the song is not for me. And it won this semi-final, which is just remarkable. I don't know if it was one of you or Bernardo. It was Bernardo who said they looked like the Powerpuff Girls. It was all neon pink, neon blue. They're inventive with their staging, I'll give them that. But I am surprised by this result. One way to explain this is perhaps, the Ukrainian diaspora is, of course, spread all across Europe. Perhaps there is some lingering, no, not lingering, what's the word? I don't want to say sympathy vote because that's not fair, but maybe people are primed to vote for Ukraine more, out of solidarity. Let's call it a solidarity vote, because I struggle to objectively put this at the very top. In the top 10, absolutely, but the very top, that's a little tricky for me, Lucy.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bernardo said Power Ranger is what it reminded him of. I think Remember Monday were Powerpuff Girls. But yeah, no, it was I didn't love the staging. I thought the glow filter on it was a bit I just didn't connect to it at all. I can't remember. I think it might have been Jay on Twitter was like asked for it to be amplified. This filter, it was really, really funny. Like amplifying the filter more and more. And it was just a bit too much for me. The outfits, I actually wasn't as bothered about the outfits as other people were. But for me, the song just didn't connect to me personally. But I think that with it being a bit of a prog rock song, maybe there weren't many rock songs this year. To me, Lithuania was the only like rock song, and that this one had that little flavor of it, that little seasoning on it of that. And I guess that maybe a lot of these points also come from rock fans who wanted some rock, kind of chucking their votes that way. I do agree that maybe for it to be first in the semi-final, maybe there is some of that solidarity vote still, but I do think whilst not my cup of tea at all personally, I can understand people voting for it because there was nothing else like it in this semi. But yeah, I'm pleased they've been through a lot before Eurovision. They had a lot of people. There was one particularly horrific tweet I remember seeing. People were taking it very far. with their critique of Ziferblat, and it was a bit shameless at times on social media. And for them to then come back and qualify, which at the time we only knew it was qualify, we didn't know they win, and he just goes up like to the camera in that semi-final. I was like, oh, oh, oh. So yeah, like for him to be able to do that, that was a really powerful moment when they qualified, and he was kind of just saying like at the camera, I think. And I think that was more, people were like, oh, is it because people have said they're not going to qualify? I don't even think it's that. I think there was more personal stuff that they were kind of saying, try me again. And like you say, the backing vocalist, the woman, like something terrible happened to her. Like they had a rough time in the week leading up. So yeah, you know what? All power to them. They won the semi. Good for them.
Yeah, for me, I remember they visited us at House of Helvetia the day after the semi-final, and I talked to Vanya and Daniel, Valentin and Daniel, the two twins, and they talked about this green room moment, being like, "Oh my God, are we the first Ukrainian non-qualifiers ever?" All of that, also because it turns out that Daniel actually had laryngitis all the way through, which was the reason that Tina from Germany wasn't doing pre-parties, at least not singing at the pre-parties. So, I mean, they've been struggling in so many ways, actually. So that makes the result even bigger. And I'm also looking at the detailed voting results, because they got 4 12s, one from Poland, not surprising, but the others were from Cyprus, Spain, and Portugal, which are not normally countries that would necessarily go for Ukraine. So that also shows that, as you say, Lucy, this song had an appeal to some of the fans that couldn't find any appeal in the other songs in the semifinal. And then I think that I mean, Albania maybe took the let's say the ethnic kind of votes, those who wanted that kind of song. And then you have Estonia and Sweden splitting up literally the novelty vote results. So I think Ukraine, of course, benefits from sympathy, but not only. This is not a sympathy vote as such. This is also they stood out in the semifinal, and despite their struggles, they actually did very well in that semifinal. So all the props to them for qualifying as first in the semifinal.
And I think with Ukraine, they're so good at always inserting memorable moments, things that you would remember to vote for. In this instance, they had the light being passed from Christina, the backing vocalist, to the main singer, and then the wings sprouting. And the moment in the recap where, is it Daniel, the lead singer,
Yeah.
walks forward, falls to the ground, and it sort of explodes like a supernova. They create those special moments. You know, you build to it musically, and then you remember. So yeah, Ukraine again. Mika Newton, perhaps one of the worst songs ever from Ukraine, came fourth in the final because of brilliant staging. So again, credit to the Ukrainian team. They always work with what they've got. And I should just say, Ziferblat were incredible in the interviews. So candid, so open, so warm. Love them. All right. Next point. Claude from the Netherlands came third, almost tied with Albania. And this to me speaks to the danger of only sharing photographs or only sharing a 20, 30-second teaser in the 2 weeks leading up to Eurovision, because people get a very wrong idea. Like the video clip released of Claude, it was not the strongest clip we'd ever seen. And it had a lot of people thinking, oh my goodness, he's out. When you just have photographs of his clothing up close, people are like, oh my gosh, it doesn't work. You know, this, I don't want to say misinformation, but when you have a thin slice of information, it kind of increases the chances of inaccuracy, which can negatively impact hype and buzz. But in the end, he delivered emotionally. His weapon was emotion. He connected with the camera. He sang well, and you felt his story. And ending with the little boy dancing, mirroring him, he was very emotional. You know, you could hear his voice cracking at the end when he thanked Europe. It was just a very human performance. And I think when you have a human performance, it cuts through so much noise. You remember it. You want him to do well, and then you vote for him. So well done, the Netherlands. This is how you bounce back after being disqualified the year before. Come back, place third in your semi. Bravo, Lucy.
I mean, what a wonderful man. That performance is great. And I also think just like something that really would have connected is everybody knows what c'est la vie means, no matter whether you speak French or not. Everyone has heard the words, the phrase c'est la vie, right? And when you add in like a la 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 kind of hook based into that, so say la 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 la, everybody in the arena was singing along to that. Whether I mean, I had some like casuals next to me actually in the arena, and they were like, "Oh, they really liked this one, singing along. They really enjoyed this one." And I'm really glad you actually say there about the limited snippets we get beforehand. I also think it's massively a detriment. I know we're biased as fan media, but like it is a huge detriment because I look on Twitter, which can be interesting at the best of times, and everybody's just like, well, this is rubbish, NQ, NQ, this is terrible, this is awful, why is he wearing that? No, no, no. And actually, you get way more nasty speculation than we used to get before. Way worse speculation than we used to get before. And I think the Netherlands is the perfect example of that because we didn't see the dance at the end with the mirror. We didn't see him actually really getting to do the dance that we saw in his music video that really gave us those charismatic vibes that we loved. We didn't get to see that. And yes, save the surprise for later, sure. But if you want to make fans behave better, if it's protection of artists, go, this doesn't work because we needed to be able to see more from Claude. So to calm people down and to give him the love that he deserved beforehand, because it was fantastic, his performance. I loved that outfit. I thought it was really bougie. I liked it a lot. I liked the jewels, everything. I thought he was fabulous.
For me, this is just a plain good old pop song. We have so many songs, especially in that semifinal, trying to work on shock effect or something else in your face. This is a sweet young man with a killer smile delivering a straightforward pop song that has some emotion, has some connection to himself, and it worked. I want to point out that back when the OGAE voting was done in different fan, OGAE groups around Europe, I remember in Denmark, he also came third there, and that was overall. So there is a demographic that has been looking at this semifinal who are not the, let's say, younger Euro fans who are very loud on social media and very much out there and very much commenting on everything, but the ones, let's say, my age and upwards, and I'm not young anymore, who look at this semifinal, they see a nice pop song and thinking, you know what, this is nice, I'm gonna vote for it because it doesn't rely on shock effect. So I think that was also a part of taking it, besides the points you've already made, him being, flirty with the camera and having that special moment at the end with his younger self, all of that. It just worked. And sometimes the simple things are the ones that work the best.
Absolutely. And this is not really going out on a limb. If there had been a jury in this semifinal, he would have won. And I say that because in the grand final, the jury put the Netherlands fifth. That is the highest ranking of anyone from this semifinal. They ranked Sweden sixth, and then they had Ukraine 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, down in 14th. So Claude would have won this semifinal with juries involved, I'm assuming. All right, other points. Sweden coming fourth. Now, if you look at the global Spotify charts, not even the viral charts, just the top 50, the most played songs in the world, Sweden was 46 this morning. Ukraine, Albania, and the Netherlands were not. And yet Sweden placed fourth here. They've been viral all over the place, including in countries in this semifinal, and yet they did not win this semifinal. I think a lot of us had assumed Kai would be the runaway televote winners, both in the grand final and the semifinal. Do you think this was a case of fatigue, of maybe hearing the song too many times before, or were all of us too far in the Euro bubble? And again, remember that Albania song came out before. So in the Eurofan bubble, we would be more fatigued by that. In any case, Lucy, what's your take on Sweden placing fourth?
It's an interesting one for me because I was never on the hype for this song. I don't think there are many people. I think it's just me and Suzanne out of Team Wee Wee who didn't really go for this massively. I mean, I like them, But for me, it was just a bit too, I don't know, it grated on me a bit, especially when it came to semi-finals. So I'm biased in opinion because it was never my vibe. But when we were watching the final, at least, all the casuals I was with preferred espresso macchiato. They were like, oh no, that one was slicker. That one had the big memorable moment in the staging with the fan. That's what they remembered, right? And people they were going like, no, 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 and they're like, no, yes, Estonia, right? When they went to vote. So in that moment, I was like, oh damn, Sweden are not winning this time though. And I was kind of confounded it. And one of my best friends, we've been talking for months, he's like, Sweden are winning, it's definitely happening. I'm like, no, 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 Austria, just you wait, just you wait. I sent such a smug text after, but I just never got the vibe. I looked at it, it was never a winner to me. I don't know. I think fourth is lower than even I thought. Like that is quite a surprise. But I think the quality of especially Albanian Netherlands was just it was so good that it was gonna outshine it. End of the day, this is a song contest, and whilst Bara Bastu is not a bad song by any measure, I just think that quality of Zjerm was just so breathtaking that that's going to make people it's going to give you a stronger emotion. And I think and especially with Ukraine as well, like we talk about the story with Ukraine and the genre difference whatever, that's going to give people more of a which is what makes you vote, right? Whichever one hits you the hardest, whether it's a haha or whether it's a oh gosh that's terrible, like you need that power punch. And I think that that is why this is fourth because the other three just gave you a bit more bam, right? Mm.
Yeah, and you kind of see that mirrored in the grand final where the songs that finished at the top were serious or had some kind of message, a heavier message. Whereas Sweden, it's not a joke song, but it is a fun song. And it's like Europe wasn't in the mood for that type of fun this year, given the results of this semifinal and the final. Simon.
I mean, look at the stats. Sweden got 312 points in this semifinal. And can you guess from who? Iceland, Norway, and Estonia.
Oh.
So
Wow.
the countries that would understand both because it's in Swedish and because it is in this specific dialect that they used in Österbotten in Finland. So those were the 312s they got. When I look at the other 12s in this semifinal, it's like Estonia's got 112 from Croatia, which says, okay, this song is not specified for, let's say, a Nordic market. So it just shows that although we loved Bara Bastu, I mean, I'm Danish. I was on the whole Melfest tour. I saw them rise from, as I say, last to first. But of course, there would be some people struggling, understanding the concept of this because they didn't understand other than oh and bara bara bastu. Those were the easy ones. Whilst, as we talked about with Estonia, mi amore, espresso macchiato. It's easy for everyone to latch onto. But let's not forget. Yes, they were fourth with 118. Albania was second with 122. We're not
Oh
talking
wow, yeah.
about big margins
Yeah.
here. So they could have been second if 2 points had skewed from Albania to Sweden. So yeah.
Someone on Blogs has a funny comment. It says, "Baby, it's kinda crazy." If you know,
Not
you
this.
know. All
Yes.
right. Also, can I just say, I view Bara Bara Basu almost like a football anthem. I feel like the chorus is so anthemic. And maybe because I'm a Melfest geek, I was just so obsessed with this, and I really thought they were going to take it. But they've been very humble in their response. They've been very appreciative. They've been very grateful, saying, "Wow, we can't believe that the three of us from this small town in Finland have managed to place fourth at the Eurovision Song Contest." Like, shout out to them. Love
Yeah.
that positivity. Who else have we not talked about? Poland. Justyna Steczkowska. She placed seventh after performing in second position. I really thought this was going to climb higher. I really thought that a lot of Slavic countries, Balkan countries would throw a lot of points her way. I thought the visual of the dragon would sort of appeal to children who I'm assuming stayed up late enough to watch. But clearly it did not. I mean, seventh is not bad, but I just wanted more for her. Perhaps because she's such a lovely person. Perhaps one of my favorite interviews of the entire Eurovision season. She's just a spirit. She is my spirit animal. My partner here in the UK was watching at home, and he's not into Eurovision, so I view him as like the litmus test of like a normal viewer. And he was like, "What the hell's going on?" He said, there's a lot of dance, but I need more of a melody. Whereas I was like chanting, I love those chants, in the song da 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 da. But he, as a typical viewer, was not feeling it. So I don't know. Maybe I just have different taste to the mainstream viewer, but I view her as like a queen and icon who deserved so much more. Lucy.
So interesting one because almost all of my colleagues are based in Gdansk, Poland. Shout out to them. They all obviously when they heard Justyna Steczkowska, because I told them I'm going to Eurovision next week, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know, Poland's not very good." I'm like, "Go, you've got Justyna Steczkowska," and they suddenly were like so excited about it, right? And so they all watched, and my teams was just full of like all my Polish colleagues like about Justyna, but they were all annoyed. And apparently, it's in Polish media. The recap doesn't involve any singing. It's her hanging there, right? Not a great recap choice. But also, I think casual viewers. Oh hi.
Sorry, it's my cat toy.
Casual viewers either loved it or hate it. And I've got this video. My sister sent me it, just trying to do the dance, like around her lounge,
Oh
right?
my God.
So she loved it because she just sent me that, like, what is this? I'm obsessed. And I'm obsessed with her sending that, frankly. So people either really connect to the kitchen sink method, which I don't know if that's a very British phrase, so I'll elaborate. We say throwing the kitchen sink at something. It's when you literally take everything, you do everything in a performance or something, or if you're going, yeah, took the kitchen sink. She did too much, maybe in the performance. There was a bit too much going on for your casual viewer. I thought she would win the televote of Eurovision in the final.
Yes. Yes.
She did not. And in the televote only semi-final, she came seventh. I'm genuinely like, what? What? But then she did have to go after Iceland, which when we were talking about semi-finals and videos before, I was like, I think Iceland are hurt by Poland. Turns out Poland was maybe hurt by Iceland. And then also in Slovenia, I could talk for hours, I won't. But they came after her and that was really meaningful and beautiful. So I think maybe she was hurt in the semi by people around her. But then if you look at the final, the televote wasn't great either. So I think people maybe found it funny, some of the dancing, even though there was a deeper meaning to it. I'm not saying it's a funny song. It's not. It's a really beautiful song. But I think casuals who don't know were maybe watching it like, right? And I think that's maybe where it came from. And I'm sad for her though. I really thought she'd win the semi. I really did. I'm shocked.
Yeah, that recap was a choice. Simon, what do you make of it?
Yeah, as you said, that was a choice because every single thing that I saw enhanced, highlighted from this performance was her being able to sing as well as she did while doing all the physical activity as she did. What do you do in the recap? Show her being lowered from those trenches she were holding on to. What does that show? Nothing. And another point, she is the first of the ones that we're going to talk about. She is the first power woman in Eurovision 2025 who was massively downvoted despite throwing the kitchen sink, doing very, very well with the song that they had respectively, because we're talking about semi-final two with some of the other power women. And there is, for me, when I look at this scoreboard, top three are songs who are you're close to the artists themselves, like Ukraine, Albania, Netherlands. Then you have three novelty fun songs, Sweden, Estonia, Iceland. And then you have Poland. So it's like these are kind of grouped, And I think Justyna fell victim of being too much for some, as you say, Lucy, the casual viewers. It was a lot going on in 3 minutes. It was circling. It was holding long notes. Longest known Eurovision history. Hello, Philip Kirkorov. There's so much going on. So I get why a viewer watching this for the first time would sit back and be like, oh, oh, wow, that was a choice. And it will turn some people off. Although, as I say, with what she had and what she did was amazing, an amazing achievement. But was it an amazing package? When you look at it in retrospective, it probably was a little bit too much of everything.
Yeah, well, Mother Earth, she still lives and breathes. Shout out to someone who's 52 doing what she did. I mean, that people were messaging me like, is she really over 50? I was like, you wouldn't know it if you met her, but indeed she is over 50. Well done to her. Three more qualifiers we have not talked about: Norway, Portugal, and San Marino. And I should say there's a massive gap. Poland was on 85 and seventh. Then Norway had 82, so very close. Then there's a big gap: Portugal at 56 and San Marino at 46. Um, I just feel like Portugal was the only song in its genre. It was one of the only slower songs. It was heartfelt in the sense of Claude, but without the tears. Like it doesn't, this is not a song that's going to make you cry, but it is really lovely and you can tell that it's real and it's emotional. It felt very independent. Yeah, and it qualified from seventh in the running order. I think this was very well deserved the more I think about it. Most of us had written it off. Most of us said DOA. But having been through this run of songs in, fifth, sixth, and seventh place, and actually eighth as well with Norway, it's a lot of movement. It's a lot of dancing. And then Portugal is like, nope, we're just keeping it cute. We're keeping it sweet. And sometimes sweetness is enough if there's enough flavor around you. I think if there had been other songs in this genre or even at this tempo, they might have been out, but they really, really popped out and they sounded great. Lucy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of us have this experience where the casuals in your life message you during semi-finals. I had the Beatles referenced to me by two different people. They were just like, "Oh, it's Beatles. It's got that same kind of like pleasant kind of vibes as the Beatles. They are the Beatles from Portugal." And I was like, "That's so interesting. I'd never considered them to be like that before." But these two people don't know each other. They have very different age groups as well. One was 18 and one was 68. All right. Like these people really liked that chill vibe. And like you say, in this semi, we didn't really have anything else of that type. And I didn't really rate this before Eurovision, but when I saw the staging, when you saw the plane and stuff like that, you had commentators explaining what Deslocado means. Even in the UK, they remember to do that, and that is quite the feat. And it was people got it. People were like, no, that's lovely actually. And you will always get people who want something lovely. And this was probably the better of the lovely songs this year. It was just really pleasant, wasn't it? It was really nice. It was arty. It was I'm really pleased when they qualified, but can we just say that this is the point where I was like, actually, this new announcement method might be quite good. But Portugal, Slovenia, and I can't remember who the third one was. I think it was Croatia, maybe Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
The three, we were all like, "Oh, sorry, what? What?" I'm not gonna lie, like, I assumed it was Slovenia, if I'm honest, and I think kind of a few of us in the group chat did because I remember those messages coming through, girl. But like when Portugal did it, I was really pleased. I was like, no, actually, they deserve this. It's a really quality piece of music, and the staging wasn't too much. They kept it simple, but they did enough to show you the meaning of the song. It was fantastic. I keep saying this a lot, but I was thrilled for them. It was great.
I am the stats nerd here, so I'm looking at where they got their points from. And Switzerland gave them 8, big Portuguese diaspora there. Spain, of course, neighboring country, gave them 7, and Ukraine gave them 7. And to that point, I'm like, because when they visited us at House of Helvetia, they talked about this message of having to leave your home, having to settle somewhere else, and the thoughts that goes into that, the longing for the things that you remember from home. I mean, if any country or any people can relate to this, it is of course the Ukrainians. And then they got like steady points from a lot of the countries. There are only 4 countries out of the 17 voting because of the big 3 as well, who didn't give them points. So they got consistent points actually from throughout the board. So for me, this is a combination of the theme of the song, the somberness of the song, and the countries or the people in those countries who can relate to the message of being somewhere else than your original home.
That's lovely. And I want to read this comment. This is from Nils on the Wooey Blog's website. Azerbaijan Last, that was and is a really catchy song in audio only mode and as a whole. So this again is a difference between a radio contest and a live TV show. I think the Mag Mama Gamma's Run With You is a catchy radio song, but live there was just no charisma. There was no charisma. They looked really scared and overwhelmed by the experience. The staging was dark. it just did not have presence. There was no presence. And when you look like a deer in headlights, I don't know, people just don't vote for that, particularly for a song called Run With You, right? Like he wasn't running. Our man was not running. And if he was, it was to get out of the camera. Um, yeah, I think this was a very predictable result, actually. I think Azerbaijan's really lost its way. In recent years, it's often sleek and polished and yet somehow cold and can alienate you. I've just felt very alienated by all of their songs really since I like 2016 and 2017, Samara and Dihaj, but since then I do struggle to remember what they've sent actually, to be honest. Oh, I
Mm,
liked Icel actually. Sorry, Parker to the side, but subsequently the twins, the guy with the wolf, the beard, sorry.
Ari
Um, thank you.
and
Thoughts
the
on
other one.
Azerbaijan?
I mean, I genuinely really liked this as a studio cut. I thought it was really catchy. When the first time I heard it was like, no, Azerbaijan's qualifying this year then, and everybody was like, Lucy, no, they're not. It's boring. I was like, oh, okay. And I really thought that hook, the way I do, would like hit with people at home. But when they're close to the camera, giving it like this, I was like, what are you doing, hun? What are you doing? And then he's giving it whip at the camera. It was just so awkward, and it was really not good. And I was sad because like I say, I liked the song. I didn't think it was ever going to qualify because I was like one of the only ones who did like it. But like when you look at it's almost uncomfortable viewing. And the staging, what was that giant hula hoop, the big ring thing on the ceiling? How did
The
that contribute
donut.
to your staging? And to point out, by the way, without going too much into this, Ace Bowerman did the staging. The only other staging they did was the UK, which I wasn't fond of either.
Oh.
So, the staging was not good. The outfits looked a bit too big on them. And then at the end, the only bit that made kind of people, because we watched it after the final, I was like, well, this is the one that probably came last in semi-final one. And the only bit that made the casuals go, oh, was the with the, I don't know what the instrument's called, but with the instrument, that was the only bit they're interested in. And then the big, hey, hey, at the end, they were like, what's going on? So it wasn't good. And sorry to steal your stats moment, Simon, but they did only get 7 points. And that was all from San Marino's televote, which
Is a
nobody
jury.
knows how that worked. Oh, was it the jury? Oh, yeah, well, it's a jury. Yeah, of course, because there isn't a televote in San Marino. But like, that's literally the only points they got was from San Marino, which is always a bit of a funny one. We don't really understand that at the best of times anyway. Um, so yeah, no, it was the least surprising. Like this year was so surprising in many ways. This was the least surprising bit.
That was actually my point, and because I saw someone post somewhere that San Marino, sorry, Azerbaijan is now the only country to get 2 times 0 in a semifinal, and I was like, didn't they get 7 points? But then I thought, oh, San Marino is not a televote; it is a jury. So technically, no televoters have voted for San Marino now twice.
Wow.
I was myself in the pre-jury in Azerbaijan, not this year, but in 2024, and we had 6 songs to choose from. And when we got the message of who had won, because I didn't know that, I just cast my vote. I was like, I couldn't even remember where I put them,
Mm.
which for me tells a lot about those 6 songs weren't very memorable, and they have unfortunately continued down that path of having nice songs with nice artists, but it just doesn't have an impact on the broader Eurovision public. So I think they need to figure out, okay, are we going back to the whole buying Swedish songs thing, or are we do we think that we can find something that will resonate enough with the Eurovision public, because otherwise they're going to go down an Ireland path, and I mean struggling to, or Malta path, struggling to get out of last place in the semifinal, because that's where they're heading right now, unfortunately.
And let's do a final round. Feel free to talk about any country you would like. I'm going to bring up Croatia, Poison Cake. I just felt watching this that it was like an assault on the senses. There was so much going on with the light effects, the neon green, the frenetic cameras. It was like boom, boom, boom. It's like I wanted to go sleep in a cave and just gather my thoughts. But then the final 20 seconds I thought were excellent when they're doing all the aggressive dancing and bringing it home. I just think there needed to be more of a journey to get there because the intensity at the end was actually similar to the intensity throughout if you count flashing and lights. Um, so I just wish we had been on more of a journey to get to that point because the ending was very, very strong. Um, yeah, that's my thought, Lucy.
I'll talk about Croatia for 2 seconds. It just gave Disney Channel original movie to me. Wasn't my vibe. What I want to talk about is Slovenia. I've mentioned them a couple of times in here already. I distinctly remember William Lee Adams, yourself messaging as they started doing announcements like, I really hope Slovenia make it. And I was like, I was devastated when he didn't. I was crying in the arena. I don't cry at sad things like that casually, like music. I'm more of a happy crier than a sad crier. And like I was there, like, oh, it's beautiful. Tom Hendrick was next to me. He was crying. The casuals next to me, they were crying. We were all like, oh, it's lovely. Yeah. I thought he was making it. Like, to me, he was like a dead cert. Like, I was like, oh, he's going to make it intense. Like, I was so sure of it. And he deserved so much better than this because the staging was some of the best staging this year. It was so moving. And I think he was a bit robbed. I do. That's me out.
Can I just chime in? The purest song of the year in terms of like emotional connection, like it was direct. It was beautiful. I never liked this song until I saw it on stage here. It was done tastefully. This is how you elevate. Slovenia doesn't have the biggest budget, and they did a lot. They did a lot with what they had. Simon.
For me, it's the closeness between 10th and 11th. San Marino on 46, Cyprus on 44. But when you break it down, San Marino got consistent but low points, and of course the 12 from Italy. Cyprus got two 12s, one from Azerbaijan, one from Netherlands, and a 10 from Slovenia. Other than that, two 5s, and that was it. So only 5 countries liking Cyprus's song, while San Marino scored more consistently. So again, that shows if you have a song that's too divisive, you'll probably get a few top marks, but you won't get the broad appeal that is needed to qualify for the Eurovision Grand Final.
It's a very abstract song in some ways, isn't it? It's so hard to define. It's so hard. I can hum it, but it doesn't progress like a typical song. It's like a mini movie, and that's a risk. And I'm glad they took a risk because, some people say sometimes that Cyprus is too generic. I like that this year they took a risk. It didn't work in the end. It didn't pay off, but it shows different flavor. It shows ambition. It shows risk taking. So even though the result did not work out, and I'm not just saying this because my man has a defined jawline and he gives me hope for myself. All I know is this. I really liked that they went dark and they went mysterious. And yeah, this time it was on the wrong side of qualification, but maybe next time it'll be on the right side. Yeah. Now, I know I said that was the last round, but any other thoughts?
I'm good.
I'll just quickly say I think Cyprus was maybe a bit dull after the initial whoa, and I think that might be why. After the first minute, I was just kind of like, okay, I've seen that now. But I just want to say to our guy Theo Evan, you probably put more
Yes.
effort into rehearsal than anybody this year. You probably had to train harder than anybody. So well done for doing that because you were marvelous anyway, honey. You were
Thank
so
you
good.
so much. I really appreciate that. I really, really do. Um, Yeah, well, look, that's what we think. What do you think? What surprised you about the semifinal one results, and what was blatantly obvious and you knew months ago? Let us know here on Wee Wee Blogs.
Don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the little notification bell, and follow us on all social media.
And last but not least, because David isn't here, follow Wavy Blogs on Pinterest.
We're not on Pinterest, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.